So let's look at using a ratio in an algebraic problem. The question tells us that in a band, half the members are girls. It then tells us that after a year in the band, 3 boys leave. Then it tells us that after the 3 boys leave, the ratio of boys to girls is 3 to 4. That similar ratio we were using before. How many boys are in the band? So first of all, let's find the information the question doesn't give us. So if half of the members are girls, that must mean that the other half are boys, which means that there are an equal ratio of girls to boys, or an equal amount of girls and boys in the band. We know that after a year, 3 boys leave, and that leaves us with a ratio of 3 to 4. It's no longer a ratio of 1 to 1. How many boys are left? So, there are a couple different ways we can do this. The first way we're going to do it is using a tape diagram. The way we're going to go about doing this is using a tape diagram. The way a tape diagram works is it literally lets you draw out the amount of people you have. We know that there's the same amount of boys and girls. We don't know exactly what number, but we know there's the same amount. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw 2 rectangles that are equal size, and what that represents is the same amount of boys and the same amount of girls in the band. Now that we have our initial tape diagram that is equal amount of boys to the equal amount of girls, let's figure out the rest of the problem. So we have an initial ratio of 1 to 1, and we have a final ratio of 3 to 4. Technically, this 1 to 1 ratio can be put into a ratio of 4 to 4, which is similar to the final ratio we're trying to achieve. This is still in the same ratio as 1 to 1. For every 4 boys, there are 4 girls. Now, the amount of girls is staying the same, but we know that the ratio of girls is going to be 4. So the reason why we're putting it into 4 boxes is because that's going to stay the same in our second half of the problem. On the other hand, we're going to have to get rid of 3 boys. So if we get rid of this box, it actually does our ratio for us. 3 sets of boys to 4 sets of girls, a ratio of 3 to 4. We only have to get rid of 3 boys to get to that ratio. So if we're getting rid of that 3 boys, we're going to set each box equal to 3. Now when we remove this last box from the tape diagram, we have a ratio of 3 to 4, and we represented the 3 boys leaving. Now we can answer how many boys are left. So the amount of boys, 3, 6, 9 boys, and there are 3, 6, 9, 12 girls. Ratio of 3 to 4. That checks out. Now that we know what that looks like, we're going to do it through algebra. So we're going to think of this in the same way as we did before. They're the same amount of girls as the same amount of boys. So we only need to use one variable. Now, since we're going to change the amount of boys there are, we're going to use b as our variable to represent the girls and the boys. So our ratio is b to b because even though yes it's girls and yes it's boys, it's the same number on each side. So now let's look ahead. The next year the band is losing 3 boys. So we know that after the next year, the amount of boys is going to be reduced by 3. And that the ratio of boys to girls has to be 3 to 4. So the original number of girls is still b. That's not changing. So we're going to put this here. The ratio of boys is changing. So we're going to put this here. b minus 3. b minus 3 to b has to be the ratio of 3 to 4. So we're going to rewrite this in a way that we can easily understand. The reason why we're writing it this way instead of the b on top and the b minus 3 on the bottom is because we know that the top part has to be in the ratio of 3. So this top part equals the ratio of that top part. And this bottom part of our ratio has to be equal to this bottom part of our ratio. So it works. So it's set up correctly. So now we're going to cross multiply it like a regular equation. b minus 3 times 4 is equal to 3 times b. So I'm just going to erase this part. Okay. So now that we have this equation, we're going to treat it again like regular equation rules. We're going to distribute 4 to each part, 4b minus 12, and 3b it can be kept like that. Now we're just going to combine like terms and isolate the variable. So I'm going to add 12 first to each side, I'm going to get 4b is equal to 3b plus 12. Subtract 3b to get all the b's on one side. And we get b equals 12. So, remember our ratio from before? We have b minus 3 to represent the boys after, and b to represent the girls after. B minus 3 and b. Now we just have to plug in b. So b minus 3 is 12 minus 3, which is 9, and b is 12. That would be our ratio. So now we just have to check if this is in a ratio of 3 to 4. If we divide each side by 3, 9 divided by 3, 12 divided by 3, we get 3 to 4. It checks out. So the amount of boys is 9 boys. Hey, thanks for watching this Crash Course video. To watch the previous video in this series, click here. To watch the next video in this series, click there. If you want to request a video, make sure you put it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video.